Hello, and thanks for tuning in to this version of Stampscapes Sunday Live. This is a sped up version of our most recent live stream video. And this happens to be the holographic rainbow sticker vinyl paper. That's a mouthful there. And this is a paper by U-inkit, the company, and it happens to be a very loud, vibrant, patterned holographic sticker paper. And one of the louder papers that I've stamped on before. My inclination with this type of paper is to stamp something a little bit more solid, bold, and, kind of more silhouette based against this loud type of paper. But I wanted to experiment on here using the different types of media that I use on it, in addition to seeing what a very colorful types of imagery would look like against this very colorful background. So it's not so much of a contrast against it, but kind of something a little bit more similar in terms of, I don't know, maybe just the sheer amount of color projected on it. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I am going over the surface with a layer, a kind of a cloudy kind of structure using the white Brilliance ink. Okay, and the white Brilliance ink is a water-based ink, pigment ink, that has a fast drying capability to it. So on this printable vinyl paper, it dries on here and adheres to it very well. And I wasn't sure how it would work against this brand of vinyl, but I found that it works just fine, okay? Now remember, this is a printable vinyl, not just vinyl. Okay, those are different types of surfaces. This one has an emulsion coating that accepts, your inkjet or laser types of printing inks in your printer. Okay, so Autumn Brook. Doing some multiple colors on here that will give me a multicolor impression, thus giving me a head start in my coloring process. You don't have to do all this with pens and whatnot, but it is a good way to get that multicolor impression just inherent in the impression itself, instead of depending on all of those colors to come in the post-impression process, okay? Okay, so this is the Autumn Bank Left, adding that in there in some additional colors. Now I'm going on here with my alcohol markers now, okay? Now the alcohol markers should not smear the water-based impressions made using the Autumn Brook and Autumn Bank, okay? Because alcohol and water do not mix, okay? Now, the thing about the Brilliance White ink is that it provides a little bit of a foundation, or a lot of a foundation, a white foundation for the colors used in my impressions to show. If I just go directly onto that holographic cardstock without whiting it out in the background in the form of those clouds, you'd have all of that loud type of holographic kaleidoscope, however we want to describe it, background showing right through all of the trees and everything like that. It would make it hard to see the imagery. Maybe if I stamped it out in black, it would be more apparent, but then I wouldn't be able to add so much color using my pens because I would be coloring, transparent colors over black. Maybe it'd be okay, maybe not, I don't know. But I'll have to try that sometime in the future. But now what I'm doing is I'm building up some opacity using my acrylic paint pens. This one's a 3mm acrylic paint pen. It's pretty large of a tip, so you're leaving a fairly large dot. Okay. And let's see, I couldn't remember if I'd used another one here. This is a 3mm orange pen. Adding it in. The imagery doesn't look great here, okay? It looks really bad, in fact. In fact, it looked really bad after I colored it with the alcohol markers. But all of that is a foundation for these other textures to come, okay? I don't always have to do all this if I'm just stamping my imagery on a white piece of paper, but I do have to go for a pretty thick buildup with all of that super loud texture in the background. Not only am I trying to cover that background, but I'm trying to kind of match it in terms of the, maybe the visual volume, I guess we can describe it as. So I'm doing this kind of impressionistic type of, I don't know, pointillism type of approach with this paint on here that's building up on the surface, giving it a little more volume, going in here with a 0.7 millimeter white paint pen here and adding in some highlights with this little pen. So you can use multiple nib sizes on your paint pens. You can go for the larger dots, you know, the more, I don't know, they give you more coverage and give you more maybe visible texture with those larger dots, but I'm going in here with the finer one now to get, you know, some more kind of detailed areas using this one. I use a lot of the different paint pens in my painting here. I've skipped ahead on some of these portions just to make this replay go a little bit faster, but it's starting to come together a little bit more. You know, the imagery is standing out from the background the more kind of color and texture you apply to it, okay? And I'm also kind of defining some of the forms a little bit more that got lost a little bit in the coloring process with both the pens directly on the stamp and made, you know, going for the impressions, and then all the coloring that I did with the alcohol pens. You know, it tends to kind of blend a lot of things together. So this is a good way to redefine some of those things. It gets a little bit textured too, so I guess maybe you're, you know, kind of making things a little bit more indecipherable in terms of the actual forms. But these trunks right here with the white paint pen really go back in and add that definition back into the trees, okay? Every time I add this white, I don't always remember to do that every time, and we don't need to do it every time if I'm stamping this on a white piece of cardstock, but oftentimes I do add a lot of color to my trees, and these white trunks and branches really give structure to the whole scene again, in my opinion. I just think it looks so much better. And I'm putting it in these trunks and again the branches, but then I also do it in the reflections down in that water portion, okay? And then we have all these straight white lines, so you go back in and you put another layer of some paint right back over the top of it, just to break up some of those long straight lines, okay? Because you wouldn't be able to see the trunk, you know, going from, you know, the base of the tree all the way to the top unbroken, okay? You're going to have some foliage in front of it. Okay, now after that, what we're doing is we're sandwiching our imagery in between this white, kind of cloudy type of effect. So we have clouds in the background, then we stamped over them. Now I'm putting some of this white ink in front of the imagery. Don't cover everything up, kind of oscillate it a little bit, or a lot, you know. Don't, you know, have some areas nice and crisp and vibrant, and then have some areas kind of softer and a little bit more muted. So I think the imagery looks more three-dimensional that way. It looks set into the scene much more, which is really important on this kaleidoscope type of paper. It's just so loud and vibrant, and then we're using all this different type of media on it. It almost looks like I put a sticker of those autumn trees right over the top of this paper, which, now that I think about it, might be kind of interesting to do if you have like a Cricut and it can cut vinyl or something like that, or print on vinyl. But I don't know. Okay, so adding some more down in the front, like so. So it looks like that, you know, those autumn imagery is sitting within like a cloud now, okay? Going in with some foreground elements in the form of these reeds large in black ink. And see how much that really pushes depth in there. Now, going with some maple leaves up top. And I'm not doing them in color. I'm not sure if color would look okay because the scene is already just so vibrant. So I just want to kind of create a kind of a framing device around the upper and lower portion to push depth and do, again, frame off the scene. And now what I'm doing is I'm sandwiching that foreground imagery in some of that ink as well, some of the white pigment ink, just to make some areas look a little bit softer. There's some birds, and the birds that are smallest on there, I put in a little bit of a cloud, and that obscures them a little bit to give them a little bit of depth. And there we have it. I don't know what you think about this. I think it's pretty crazy, but it's pretty fun. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching.